Hello children. The chapter 13 we have already completed. Now we'll move on to the chapter number 14. The chapter 13, 14, 15 and 16 they are all related to environment. So we have studied about the organism and population in chapter number 13. In chapter 14 we would be moving ahead and we would be studying about the ecosystem. So we all know the hierarchy of the living organism. It starts with the cell, then it comes the tissue, then the organ, then the organ system, then the organism. So when similar type of organism they live together, we call it the population. And when different population of different organisms live together, we call it as community. And when we move ahead, then this community, they are dependent upon the abiotic factor. So when we start including the abiotic factors along with community, or we include the biotic as well as the abiotic factor, then the next level is the ecosystem. Then similar type of ecosystem all over the world, like all the forest, all the ponds, all the desert, if they are all combined together, we call them biome. And all the biomes, they form the biosphere. So that is how the hierarchy is. So from organism and population, we are moving to the next level, and it is the ecosystem. So this is chapter number 14 and it is ecosystem. And again, it is a very, very interesting chapter. And we are going to study the following topics. The summary is that we are going to study the structure of ecosystem. Then we will also study the how it is regulated, regulation of ecosystem, how the ecosystem actually functions. So that is the basic and the main part of the chapter. And then we will study some terms associated with the ecosystem. One is the succession and the ecosystem services which are done by the environment and which are so useful to us. So structure of the ecosystem, regulation of ecosystem, succession, and then the ecosystem services. This is what we are going to study. Now, before studying the structure of the ecosystem, let me tell you what ecosystem is. Ecosystem is a unit. It's a self-sustained unit. It does not require your intervention. It is a self-sustained unit which have the biotic and the abiotic factors, and we also study the relationship between them. How the biotic factor is benefited by the abiotic and how the abiotic factors are replenished with the help of the biotic factors. So it's an interrelationship, and if that interrelationship makes the particular unit function on its own naturally, then we start calling them ecosystem. So a proper definition of ecosystem is a self-sustained unit containing the biotic and the abiotic components and the relationship between them. And in the world we find various types of ecosystem, like they may be categorized as terrestrial ecosystem and aquatic ecosystem. Terrestrial ecosystem or the land ecosystem, it can be the forest, it can be the desert, it can be the grassland. And aquatic ecosystem includes the marine, or you can say the sea. It also includes the lakes, the ponds. Any water body forms the aquatic ecosystem which can function on its own. So this is how we categorize ecosystem. Ecosystem can be naturally made. Generally, most of them are naturally made. They are made by the nature. But some of them have been made artificially. Like crop field is an ecosystem which is made by man. Aquarium is an ecosystem which is made by man. So we also make so many ecosystem that also keep on working on their own. But when we change them, they stop working. So that is the basic idea of ecosystem. So we are going to study in this chapter as to how the ecosystem they work on their own, what factors make them work on their own, why they do not require any input from our side. So if we talk about the structure of the ecosystem, it's very simple that every ecosystem has got two components, the biotic and the abiotic. Let us take an example, like a pond. So the things which I have explained to you, I am just writing on the board. Ecosystem, they can be terrestrial ecosystem or they can be aquatic ecosystem. That is one way of classifying them. Another way of classifying them, whether they are natural or whether they are artificial. What kind of ecosystem are they? Now let us take an example of pond. Now in the pond, you all know that, let us first find out what are the all biotic and the abiotic factors it has. It has water, it has soil, then it has planktons, which can be zooplanktons or it can be phytoplanktons. Then it has got insects, it has got floating plants, then it also have got submerged plant, then it may have fishes, or we can say a lot many aquatic animals. I hope you all agree with me that these are the things which are present there, right? Now this particular pond ecosystem, how it is working on its own? It is working on its own because it has got producers, and it has got producers, number one, producers, and the producers produces the food. This food is utilized by the fishes, by the zooplanktons, and so there is transfer of food from one organism to another organism, and they form a chain, and that chain, you all know that it is called as the food chain. It is called as a food chain. Then more interconnected food chain, they are given a name. It is called food web. So what is actually happening in food web and the food chain? It is the cycling of the nutrients which is happening, and the flow of energy. So the second point, if we combine both of them, actually there is flow of energy. Flow of energy. There has to be a flow of energy, otherwise nothing will happen. Then third is the cycling of nutrients. Cycling of nutrients. So when the food is taken by one organism from the other organism, it is actually they are taking the nutrients. So the nutrients will keep on moving from the soil to the plant, from the plant to the animal which feed upon the plant. And when all these living organisms, the plants and the animals, when they die, what happens to them? When they die, they are being decomposed by bacteria and fungi. What is the advantage of decomposition? Decomposition brings back all the nutrients which are locked inside the body of the living organism into the environment. So it is replenishing the soil so that the plants can reuse them. So there is cycling of nutrients, and there is a flow of energy. And a very important point which I have included here is that there is decomposition. So the fourth point is the decomposition. And this is what all these four factors are the one which are making this system work. Plant producing energy, then pass it on to the animals. Animals will further pass it on to the other animals. There is nutrients which are passed on. There is energy which is passed on, and when they all die, they are returned back to the environment. The process keeps on happening in the pond, and that is what the pond. That is how the pond functions. So we are going to study in detail these 4 points that will be included in the regulation of the ecosystem. That's regulation of the ecosystem. And here it is the structure. We have studied the structure of the ecosystem. So structure of the ecosystem involves all the living organism. But there are certain ecosystems which are, which can be viewed very clearly. Like take an example of a forest. In the forest, if you see the lowermost level is occupied by the shrubs, then it is occupied by the lowermost is occupied by the herbs, followed by the shrubs, and then the trees. So there are different levels, and we call them stratification. Stratification means the steps. So there the structure is very clear that the lowermost have got herbs, then the shrubs, and then the trees. In this water body also we can have different stratification, like we have got floating organism, we have got submerged organism, then we have got organism living totally in dark. So there also the levels are found. That forms the structure of the ecosystem. Now let us talk about the regulation of the ecosystem, how the ecosystem functions. So this pond has got everything inside it, and it does not require any human intervention, any help from the human being. It can function on its own. So how the regulation? This is done by these processes: producers producing the food, food chain, food energy, cycling of nutrients, helping all the organisms to survive, decomposition, bringing back all the nutrients to the environment. So we are going to study the first one, the producers. The producers. Now we all know that plants are called as the producers, and all the organisms which feed upon the plants, which may be directly feeding upon them or may be indirectly feeding upon them, they are all called consumers. They are all called consumers. The first point, how the ecosystem function that we are studying, first is the producers, and producers are responsible for the productivity of the ecosystem. What does that mean? Productivity means the amount of food that is prepared by the plant. Now the problem is that how we are going to measure it. We are going to measure it either in the form of energy or in the form of biomass. Biomass is actually the weight of the plant. So productivity is the amount of biomass produced by the producers in a unit area in a specific time limit in a specific time limit, or maybe in unit time. So amount of biomass produced by the producers in a unit area in a specific time. Let us take an example. 20 kg of biomass is produced in 1 square kilometer of area. So this will be the productivity of the plant, right? Or it can also be taken in the form of energy. So amount of biomass produced or energy produced. Energy we get, or it is being produced by the producers. So it can be, let us say, 20 kilocalorie per square kilometer. This is a hypothetical example I am taking. So this is called as a productivity, and since plants are called as primary producers, so we call this as a primary productivity. Now I have written here that we should also consider the time. So 20 kg per square kilometer per year. It can be month, it can be week, depending upon what unit we are taking or what productivity we are calculating. So it is calculated that around 170 billion tons of biomass is produced by all the green plants, all the plants which are present on the surface. This is the primary productivity of the world. Now plants have got a primary, or the biomass, which is available to the next higher level of organism. So plants are eaten up by the herbivores, so herbivores would be getting that energy. Now let us say if it is 20 calories of the energy which the herbivores would be getting, which is actually not possible, because plant will not let the entire energy go to the herbivore. They also need energy for their growth and development, for their own respiration, for their own body functions. So what will happen, plant may use a part of it. Let us say the plant uses 5 kilocalories. So what is available to the herbivore will be the 15 kilocalorie per square kilometer per year. This will be available to the consumer. Which consumer? That is the herbivore. So herbivore will be using this much of energy, and not the 20 kilocalorie. So 20 kilocalorie is called as the gross primary productivity, which means that it is producing it directly from the sunlight and using all the inorganic components. So it is the gross, which means the overall whatever it has produced. Now from the gross, if we exclude the energy which they have utilized for on their own growth and development, we call it as, let us say it is by during respiration utilize that energy. So here it is going to be 20 kilocalories, then minus respiration, which is 5 kilocalories. So it amounts to be 15 kilocalories, and that is called as the net primary productivity. Ultimately what is available to the consumer is the 15 kilocalorie. That will be the net primary productivity. So the equation is gross primary productivity minus respiration will be NPP. NPP will be the energy available to the herbivore for its own body functions. Then what the herbivore will do? It will utilize 15 kilocalorie of energy for themselves, and then they convert them into their own tissues, into their own bones, or own body structure. So they would also be producing a biomass. They would also be growing because of that. And in that case, it means they are also producers, but they are not the primary producers. What do we call them? We call them secondary producers. And the amount of biomass which is produced by them will be called as secondary productivity. will be called as secondary productivity. So my question for you is, what is tertiary productivity? If you have understood the concept, then you must be able to answer what is tertiary productivity. Okay, so we have studied primary productivity, secondary productivity. Then what are the various methods by which the productivity can be measured, that we have studied. Now let us move ahead. That the plants, you all know that they use sunlight for the process of photosynthesis, and whatever amount of light is falling on the surface of the earth, out of that, let us say this is sunlight falling on the earth, out of that, only 50% is PAR. PAR means photosynthetically active radiation. Okay, so out of this 50%, 2 to 10% is used in photosynthesis. Rest all is either reflected back or it is not utilized by the plant. So 2 to 10% is used in photosynthesis. So if the question is asked as to what is the percentage of light from PAR the plants use, it is 2 to 10%. And what is the percentage of light which the plant use from the sunlight? So sunlight, 50% they are not at all using, only they are using 2 to 10% 50%. So out of 100% they are just using 1 to 5% of the total sunlight which is falling on the surface. Okay.